Good day, Industrial Advisor listeners, and thank you for tuning in. If you have not subscribed, please do so by clicking subscribe wherever you podcast. Click the like button and hit the bell if you want notifications of when we put up new content. Leave us a comment about anything we discuss here today or general comments about the show. Now, let's get into it.
Welcome to our Industrial Advisors podcast. You have Bill Condon and Matt McGregor. We have an awesome guest today, one of our favorite dudes at Colliers, time Colliers guy, Derek Key, who's been working kind of that Northend, East Side market for, Derek's old, so a number of years. I think, Derek, you've been with Colliers for what, over 30 years now?
Correct, Bill. Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Always in the top
you can
10.
call me King of the North if you want.
Yeah.
Game of Thrones, Jon Snow,
Grandpa. Yeah, call you Grandpa.
Grandpa of the North.
Yeah, grandfather. Yeah, he's the godfather of Colliers, baby.
Hey, Bill. If you
Yeah.
didn't shave your head, you'd have gray hair too.
Yeah,
That's true.
that's a good point.
In a horseshoe, great
Yeah.
horseshoe.
Definitely the right move to shave this thing. Well, Derek,
Oh my
thanks for
gosh.
talking Northend.
Yeah,
with
thanks for
us.
having me.
Yeah, it's great to finally have you on here. Phenomenal broker, great guy. So just excited to jump in with you and talk a little Northend industrial.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, let's kick off by telling the listener, Derek, if you would, maybe the geographical territory so they understand what we refer to as the North End and East Side. And then a little bit of the history of that market, how it started, who went there, and bring us up to modern times.
Okay. All right. So, and again, I think I already said this. Thanks, guys, for having me on. So, territory, the South End marker line is it does venture a little bit into King County. I mean, it's always thought of the North End, South Snohomish County area. But from a statistical standpoint, we do include Woodinville, Maltby area, where kind of half the markets, half's in Snohomish. So we just kind of bundle that. So that's more the south end on the 405 side. If you kind of draw a line over towards Seattle, again, really the line is the county line on I-5.
Mhm.
So probably Montlake Terrace, Edmonds area is the southern end, although there's not really much any industrial around there anyway. And then we really go up to Arlington,
Okay.
is the north end of the market. And it's a market that has been growing quite rapidly over the last 5-10 years, about 45, 46 million square feet. Almost, actually,
Wow.
It's kind of funny to think about. It's almost double the east side now, that area. So it was interesting. I knew it was bigger, but I didn't know it was that much bigger. I just hadn't really thought about it in a while. So anyway, that's the territory. And what was the second question, Matt, just about how it kind of got going or how it started?
Yeah. Everybody, I think, dating way back, thought of it as a Boeing market. So kind of how did it start? Did it start with Boeing? And then maybe even tell us a little bit about it. Didn't the East Side shrink a little bit? And that's
Yep.
what grew the North? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So you are correct. I mean, when I started 31 years ago, it was really a Boeing thought of market, or I shouldn't say Boeing and aerospace, plus small local, manufacturing tenants. It really wasn't a distribution market. There's a few small distribution tenants that serviced, the area, but in general, it was a manufacturing market. The heart of the market, again, it's where Boeing is right in that South Everett, Mukilteo area. That's where a majority of the industrial is located today. And really that's kind of how it started. And then, I want to say it was about 10, maybe 15, between 10 and 15 years ago, the east side was just maxed out. There was nothing you could build on the east side. Woodinville was pretty much done. And if you were a tenant on the east side that all of a sudden needed 50,000 square feet, you were in 20 or something and needed 50, you were really limited on options. And so you had no choice. You either had to go up to Everett, was the closest market, or you go down south into where you guys work.
Mm-hmm.
And generally, you found out that the companies on the east side, a majority of their employees would come from the north end. And for the, CEO or owner or president, they generally would more live on the east side. And it was kind of an easy move to go north because it was a reverse commute for the, let's say the owner of the company. And it shortened the commute for a majority of the employees. And there was also a rent saving. It was a cheaper rent up in that market. So then you started to kind of see these east side companies kind of slowly work their way north. And you still see that today. And, and then now all of a sudden it's really, as housing has really grown up there, there's a really good employee base there. You've got, now you've got this, it's really not an aerospace market anymore. It still is, but the growth has been on the distribution side in a big way.
Yeah, and speaking of that, maybe just to finish up the description of the market, I think when I started my career, we used to always say it was about this is, 20 years ago. We used to always say it was like a 20 million foot market, about half of it Boeing and or aerospace. When you say
Yep.
the market's now say 47 million, how much is Boeing and how much is aerospace?
It's Boeing's, probably, I don't know the exact number, man, but I'd say it's about still roughly that same number. No, Boeing hasn't really grown a ton up there.
Yep.
They kind of move, 1 year they might lease a couple 100,000, then next year they give it up, right? It's really, they obviously have their main footprint there up at Payne Field. So it's about 10 million, let's just call it roughly square feet. And aerospace, it is, if I were to guess how many other square feet, just other aerospace companies, in that market, like an ATS or a Safran, or, you're probably another couple million square feet, maybe 2-3 million square feet. So it's not, again, like you said, 20 years ago, that was more than half the market. But you look at it today and, it's probably in that, down to, 20-30% of the market is that, aerospace component, when you include Boeing in it.
Yeah. When we started in the industry, Derek, Matt and I, with about 2004, it seemed like there was a few institutional groups that were up in that market, right? Focused Northend. And over time, there's been more and more institutional groups that have gone up there. So talk a little bit about that and kind of the growth of the institutional players in the Northend.
Yeah, it was, I remember, it was more the local institutions that were up there back, around your time when you started. I know Washington Capital was up there, and then soon after that, you saw Northwest Building Corp, look at product up there, so it was more the local. The national guys were not really that interested in the market. I can remember having conversations that I can actually remember talking to Panattoni once as many years ago, and they're like, we're not going up to that market. We're not developing up there. Well, guess what? They did.
They're there.
Yeah. And, when you've got, a Principal up there now, you got North Point up there, you got Pac Trust up there. That's just to name a few. But yeah, you're right. Early on, it was not a deep enough market. There was concern, of demand depth up there. And so it took a while for it to mature enough for those more national institutional owners to venture up there, which probably happened, I'll say about 5-7 years ago is when that started to kind of kick in.
Yeah. Yeah. And it seems like, they're just, the depth of buyers up there just has increased dramatically over the last, call it 5, 10, 15 years.
Yes, absolutely. Even on, product that's, 50, 60, 70,000 square feet, they're garnishing interest in, you would think that'd be more of a local buyer, private individual, but, institutions are, looking at those type of parks up in as far as Arlington, when they come to the market.
It's clearly become an institutional market, to your point. My gut is about 15 years ago. Talk to us a little bit about the fundamentals, what drives tenants and distribution, because for previous to that 15 years, I felt like if somebody was going up there for distribution, sometimes it was a second hub from that Kent area.
Correct.
And now we see people go up there primarily. So is it labor, logistics? What is it that drives distribution companies to base there rather than the primary valley?
Well, I think where it start, it's just more the population and growth up there. The housing development, new housing starts. If you look over the last, I don't have that like numbers in front of me, but I just know, and just hearing things, from the D.R. Hortons of the world. I mean, they were really focused up South Snohomish County, North King, and a lot of their housing starts.
Yeah.
And, you just saw a massive growth, in terms of housing, population. And then the second part, you just said it, was labor. There's a good labor force up there.
More skilled,
for that distribution. Yeah, for distribution and for manufacturing. And because of Boeing up there with engineering, you're seeing a lot of, engineering companies want to locate up there because they want to take advantage of trying to obtain Boeing employees. So it's not just, again, more blue collar labor. It's also, white collar labor. Like the TerraPowers of the world, these clean energy companies, the Helions, Tap Energy. I mean, all these guys decided to be up there so they could tap into that labor force. Yeah, you've got a lot of not just distribution manufacturing, it's kind of a high-end manufacturing market too.
That market has obviously grown over the years. And, in the South End market, development kind of just continued to push further and further south.
Yep.
And you mentioned Woodinville being built out. Where are some, like the last few years, as some of the, sub-markets have gotten built out, where are some of the emerging markets up north where you're starting to see, developers start to take a look at where they maybe haven't in the past?
I mean, I think, even though Arlington has, interest from developers, the same developers you would see down south, really from a land standpoint, Bill, Everett's pretty much, I don't want to say done, but it's very limited for development options. Really, you've got to go up to Marysville, Arlington, and that's where a majority of the growth has been the last 10 years and will continue to be that, I think, going forward 10 years. After Arlington, you're really limited in terms of, sizable land option. I mean, you almost have to go all the way up to the border. Canadian border is your next stop. Blaine, Linden to the east. You can find some decent sized parcels up there, but yeah,
Even some
really
of those are
Arlington
being
is the
gobbled
spot.
up now. I know that
What's
Ferndale.
that?
I said even some of those are being gobbled up now. I know that
Oh yeah.
Ferndale one's under contract and going.
Yep. Yeah. And but again, it's interesting. I'm up here in Vancouver right now. Probably don't need to say that on the podcast, but the industrial market up here is so tight,
Yeah.
very low. And I know you guys know this, there is becoming more and more interest companies in the lower mainland, I call it, market, that are just getting priced out of Vancouver.
Right.
And they're willing to cross the border and be in that, Ferndale, Blaine, Linden area. And I've heard stories of if there was product, there just isn't the product. If there is product, it would get sold or leased pretty quickly. Yeah. And I mean, you've kind of got this pressure. You've got this east side pushing north pressure. You've got this Vancouver pushing south. And then I think another dynamic, which I know you guys are 100% familiar with, is, as you get into your market, Kent, Tukwila, Auburn, your pricing's getting up there too, to the point where, I mean, Arlington's one of the only spots where you could probably, if you're a good sized tenant, you could still make a deal under $1, for warehouse. And you look at proximity. It was always thought, well, I'm not going to go up to Marysville, Arlington. I'm too far from the Port of Seattle, or I'm too far. I do a lot of work with it. I need to be close to SeaTac. But, as you guys said, your market's hidden so far south that, I mean, not until the last probably couple of years, 2-3 years, I've never seen a South End based tenant consider the North. I would say I've seen, not double digits, but definitely good size single digits companies either tour or consider move up there. Now that's a first. Now, have I seen one land? I can't think of one right now, but just the fact that it's being considered, because again, if you want a large space in your market, you got to go pretty far south now, where the distance from an Arlington or Marysville to us, Port of Seattle, probably the same.
It's actually less.
It is less.
And if you think about it, like if you look at some of the developing emerging markets in the South End, you start in Tumwater and you go down to, say, Centralia, where we're seeing both spec and build to suit. When you look at the Port of Seattle or the Port of Tacoma, Everett is much closer because those markets are, say, 50 to 100 plus miles south of either Seattle or Tacoma. And Everett from those ports is, say, 30 miles. So the drayage is going to be less. The labor is going to be better up there. And the availability of real estate is definitely.
Yep. Good quality real estate. Yeah, exactly. So it's, it is a fun and interesting time to be up there. I mean, just to see what's happened in that market, especially more short term in the last 5 years, the amount of product that's going up, the amount of interest up there. It's fun. It's good.
Speaking of that, real quickly, who's developing this year and how much product?
So we've got under construction, Matt, right now from, again, in the whole Northend market, we're just right around 1 million square feet.
Okay.
The development going on is groups like, Smart Cap, a more local, developer, owner. You've got Panattoni doing a fairly large project down in Bothell, kind of Mill Creek, Bothell area.
North Point?
You've got, what's that?
That North Point doing that Marysville project?
Yeah, North Creek.
Okay.
North Creek. And then, so that's Bothell. And then in Everett, you've got, again, Smart Cap. You've got a small local guy that's doing so how it breaks out, you've probably got a 250K in that kind of Bothell, more south part of the market. Kind of the middle, which I kind of view kind of South Everett, kind of the middle of the market right now. You've got about 350K in a couple projects, kind of two, call it 170s buildings. And then where a majority of it is Marysville, Arlington. You've got Pac Trust, who, going to be doing about 250-ish, call it 260-ish in 4 buildings. And then you have Vector with, I think the money behind it is, I totally blanked. Anyway, institutional money behind it that's building a 200,000 square footer. And then there's a couple that were just recently done, Matt, like Panattoni finished end of last year, 330 that's in Marysville. And then you have Bridge, developed their Soundview project, which is just 500,000 square feet in 3 buildings in South Everett. So so that's kind of lay of land right now.
We did a nice deal with you in Woodinville. We just traded, so that was a good one. I mean, there are more groups, looking at, buildings up there on the investment side. Anything you're seeing noteworthy on the investment side up north right now?
The only one I'm aware of, Bill, is there is a project that just hit the market in Arlington. It's a 4-building. They call it Gateway, kind of north. We'll call it Northeast Arlington, and it's a project more locally owned and developed. They do have some institutional money behind it, but they built 4 buildings which they've leased up. So they range inside like there's probably 210,000 square footers and then a couple 70,000 square footers. So a good sized project. It's probably 330,000 total. That just hit the market. I have not heard of guidance on it. I've been getting a fair bit of calls, from institutional buyers on it. It'll definitely be an institutional, I think, buyer at the end of the day. So that's the most sizable, like comparing it to your recent sale. That in terms of institutional quality, that's the only one that's on the market right now.
Got it.
Derek, in closing, 2 quick questions for you. I'd love a quick prediction of 2024 for your market. And then secondarily, I believe this is still a fact. I saw it on TikTok not too long ago, but I believe the largest building in the world is still located in your market. It is the Boeing major plant in Everett. And I heard that the entire park of Disneyland, including the parking lot, could fit into that building and more. Do you know any statistics on that building?
Well, that's a rumor.
Okay.
I do know about the building. Now, the Disney part of it, I don't know. I
Okay.
couldn't tell you that one.
Okay.
But it wouldn't surprise me.
Yep.
So what's 2024 look like? So the development I just told both of you guys, I don't see anyone else speccing anything.
Okay.
That's a fair bit of product for our market to go up at one time. And the product that was finished in the fourth quarter of last year is not leasing up as quickly as everyone would like. So number one, will there be any other development? I heard you mention North Point. North Point is the largest landowner up in that Northend market right now. I mean, they have 450 acres. Are they going to spec anything? They're just looking at build-to-suit deals on their property. I don't anticipate someone like them building it anymore. So that's number one. Number two, we've had, as we've seen all over the Puget Sound, we've had a pretty good spike in rents. I see those rents leveling out now. I don't see rents increasing. I actually probably see, if a good sized tenant, let's say 100,000 square foot tenant comes up to the market, I see you're going to have some pretty good options to look at. And I could see a pretty competitive environment benefiting the tenant here this year. And that hasn't been the case, for the last long time. And I think we're going to see some concessions moving up, free rent, willingness to turnkey, office, that I'm seeing more and more of that, not an allowance, it's a turnkey setup. And then I think tenant demand will be a little overall light this year. I think I think it'll be kind of the first year in a while that we'll see, a little softness up there. And I'm not sure how long that will, if it'll go beyond 2024. But, the one thing about our market too is all it takes is one massive deal to think long,
Sure.
Amazon to go lease 400,000 square feet and then things change.
That's right.
Yeah. And it doesn't sound like you're getting overbuilt. I think some of these tenants are welcoming the fact that, they have a little bit of power, they haven't had the power in the last 10 years. Right. So, probably a little healthy for things to shift a little bit. That's a great overview, man. Thank you for King, the grandfather of the Northend market.
Appreciate your time.
I like King better than grandfather.
That's
by the
right.
way.
And you look the same as you did 20 years ago. So that's a good thing, Anyway, buddy,
Thank
for,
you so
for
much.
everything. Appreciate
Thank you
the
guys.
info.
It's been a pleasure. And yeah, appreciate it. It's been awesome.
Awesome.
You got it, man. Drive safe back to the States, huh?
Alrighty, I will.
Thanks
All right.
a lot.
See you, bud.
All right, see you guys.